One of the main tactics that you can use to grow a channel is to collaborate with another one. And YouTube is actually a great place for that, I would put forward, because
let's start from the beginning.
awesome.
Yeah. I just checked your history of creating of channel crawler.
Mm-hmm.
And Gemini says you created it because of your own frustration. How it was? Is it really like this?
Very, very close to. So my co-founder in the Netherlands, great guy. He used to be a YouTuber that helped people to grow their channel. One of the main tactics that you can use to grow a channel is to collaborate with another one and then essentially share audiences. So you go on their channel and they go on yours. It's now different as YouTube has made it so you can actually collaborate as channels, but this was a while ago. And so he created it for that reason, and it was just a hobby project. But me and our other co-founder came across Channel Crawler with our own frustrations of trying to find YouTubers for our own purpose, and it was very difficult. And at the time, Channel Crawler was very different. It was a much smaller database. It wasn't able to be searched for by specific categories. And so when I was actually trying to use it to build a brand for a green product marketplace, I was like, oh, this is a great idea, because you just can't find the YouTubers that you want to work with. And so I was like, this is awesome. And so, yeah, I had a frustration. I was trying to start my own brand product and actually realized there was some really good opportunity with this. So I chatted to the team, just literally just down the pub, and we got together and have been going ever since. So yeah, good successful trip.
Yeah. I think every cool product, they really started from this kind of pain when you couldn't find any solution to address your real pain at the moment. And you're okay, if I has this issue, there are maybe more people struggling with the same.
And that makes it really helpful, because I've sold products in the past that I have used and ones that I haven't. And whilst you can always do good discovery, understand users, talk to them, there's still just that very different experience once you've done it. It's like if I try and be an engineer, I can read all the theory and I can go through all the steps and say, well, this is how we should be thinking about building, this is what we should do. But I've never been an engineer. I don't really know what that frustration is when you can't quite get something to work, although we probably all have that in some parts of our work. And really getting into that actual lived experience is very different to reading about it and trying to empathize with it. And so when the users are trying to do anything on the platform, there's a 95% chance I've tried to do it for the same reason. So yeah, I can totally understand where they're coming from and how we can try and make solves for that as well.
And I know that Channel Crawler uses some kind of AI for categorization. I think it's okay. It's not a top secret. Every platform tried to implement this AI. And could you tell me more about how it works and how it helps to, discover some influencers?
Yeah, absolutely. And so before all of this technology was available so freely, because it has been available for a while, but in the form that it is now, it's so much easier for us to utilize and for others too. We used to do a keyword exact match, and that works well in some places where if you search for crypto, it's very hard to get something that's not related to crypto that pops up. The only thing that you might get is a channel that's mentioned it once and it doesn't feel totally relevant to what you're doing. But where that might struggle is fitness can mean a wide range of different things to people. That can mean I'm looking for yoga and Pilates. That can mean I'm doing weightlifting, running, whatever it may be. And so what we decided to do was use AI to create categories. So rather than having to look for a specific keyword, it could take the context of what the channel talks about and then give it a category and a confidence score based on that. And so what that means is that we take the last 50 videos, we take the channel title, the channel bio, the video titles, and the video descriptions, and then give that to a model which has been it's agnostic. So sometimes we've used OpenAI, other times we've used some of their competitors, and we basically say, with all of this information, here's a preset of categories and subcategories. Give us at least 1 to 5 results back, and how confident you are out of 100 to do that. And if it's below 75 out of 100 confidence, we don't take it into the platform. And then anything above that is something that you'll see on the channel profile. And there's different little bits that we do with that to improve the results. And so that might be that if a channel title was called like Crypto Bro, I don't think that's a real channel, but we would say, okay, if you notice that there's a really telling thing in the channel name, use that as your main weighting. Whereas if you have context where it's actually totally irrelevant, maybe it's a person's name, maybe it's like Mr. Beast or Coco Melon, and you discover that that's totally irrelevant to the rest of the content, ignore that and focus on video titles, because the title will say what it's about in the most part. And then there's some other pieces that we work through and say, okay, if someone just does like clickbait titles mostly and doesn't actually really give much info about it, try and do it from the video descriptions, because in that scenario, they probably have put a pretty in-depth video description because they want to actually showcase like what it's about somewhere. And then if you've got 50 videos worth of context, you'll then be able to understand, what is this about, and give it a category from there. It works really well. Of course, like with some channels, it just either hallucinates or does something that we don't expect, and we have to make some manual changes here and there. But for the most part, it works really well, and we've got really good user satisfaction from it.
Yeah, all these AI tools, agents, they are not work so perfectly as we expected.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're far less forgiving of technology than we are of humans as well. So it's just funny.
Yeah. Because like you try to make them really solid, like step-by-step actions, and then you realize they skip some of them.
Yeah.
They decided, okay, we need to save, I don't know, resources. I think so. And they just skip some important step, and you're like, how you did it? Like, what the hell? But anyway, it was kind of not intro, small pre-talk before our main topic.
Mm-hmm.
And welcome to our Tapfiliate podcast, where we talk about affiliate marketing, everything related to this stuff. And today in our show, Jake Kitchiner, I think from a channel Crawler, the CEO and founder. Could you introduce yourself a bit?
Well, that was a great introduction. I'm Jake, one of the co-founding team here at Channel Crawler. Essentially, Channel Crawler is a YouTuber database. And so if you were trying to partner, whether that be for affiliate, sponsoring, or selling to a YouTuber, Channel Crawler is a great place to come and find an appropriate one. And we also work with a lot of programmatic advertising teams as well, who want to advertise directly onto specific channels. And so the thing that I say with that is that if you are trying to sell guitars, videos and channels that talk about guitar lessons are a good place to start with that. And so, yeah, that's about me. But I also love lots of other things. I'm a live music enthusiast, live sport enthusiast, like try and run when I get time and enjoy each day as it comes.
And let's start from a question number one. The YouTube influencer space for sure feels like a kind of Wild West for a small team with a limited budget. And where do you even begin to look without wasting countless time to, I don't know, and find your ideal influencer, YouTuber? How to understand what kind of YouTuber you need?
Yeah, I think you have to start with what what is the goal that you are trying to achieve? That usually sits into somewhere along the spectrum of brand awareness versus direct conversions. And so with that, I would pair that with how has your product or brand been found previously? What do you know of where your customers find you and what they've liked about those routes? Because that will tell you a few pieces of information. And then essentially from there, you're then starting to think about, okay, which types of influencers are going to convert more? And YouTube is actually a great place for that, I would put forward, because the audience has such a longer period of time versus other social media channels, such as anything on Meta or TikTok. And they're able to build trust as a result. And so when they recommend a product or a service, people are quite willing to listen because they feel like they know this person a lot more. And you're essentially with somebody looking for a consistent view count, consistent viewership for people to come through. So even if it's only somebody with 1,000 subscribers and 800 to 1,200 views each time, you know that there's a regular audience that's coming back. Whereas if you've got spikes of different view counts, it shows that really it's more based on the specific video and how good that is versus this person's actual channel overall. So nice consistent viewership is really good there. And then the second part that I would look at is then, okay, this person's got good consistent viewership. They're in a niche of interest to me. And with that niche, I would say that you're essentially trying to pair with what you do. So if you are fitness, it's good to go onto fitness channels first of all. And then once you've conquered that, then start to look at segments that match up with that quite nicely. So healthy recipes, for example, or travel, but travel that might be related to fitness holidays or something like that. So you've got those pieces there. So you've got a consistent view count. It's in a category or niche that seems to make sense for you. And then that final part is, what are the comments like? And the more comments, the better. And the more engaged comments, the better. So if I just put great post or loved this, it doesn't really show much interest from a person. There's a bit of a joke going around at the minute that can be an AI generated comment.
Yeah.
But there are people that just, write that anyway. So that's where the AI has initially gotten that pattern of behavior from. But if you have people that are pouring their hearts into a comment saying, I love this, or this was really like game changing for me, etc., then that's somebody that clearly has a connection to this audience, that an audience that keeps coming back, and they're the sort of person that you say, okay, that actually, I think they could push a product for us. And depending on what your niche and category is, that might change as to who you partner with. But I would say if you've got a good consistent viewership with like comments that show people are really loving it, that's as good a place as any to start.
It's actually great that you mentioned the comments. I just realized maybe in my behavior, in behavior of my daughter, and I think right now people start commenting less than before. What do you think?
I think that is true. A big shift is the movement towards television. And so the commenting experience on television is actually much harder to do because you're just trying to do it. You don't have a keyboard in front of you. And it also is actually very hard to make a comment. And in some TVs, impossible to make a comment on YouTube. So that is a challenge. There's a couple of things that you can do to mitigate that. First of all, I would go to the quality of the comments, and I would take that as a leading marker of, if people were to comment, is this the kind of comment that shows that they're super engaged? And the other part is, when you speak to a creator, you can ask them for where people are watching their content. And before you make any kind of agreement, just have a look at, is it on mobile, desktop, or TV? And if it's largely on TV, you can give them quite a lot of leeway in the fact that their comment range might be down from where it was before. And also, if they've been going for a while, look at where they previously were in terms of comments. And if they're still getting the same hype and same engaged comments from people, but it's going down, perhaps it's just more people are switching to the TV experience. And if you can see that in their own,
or maybe they tired of commenting everything, because
maybe, true,
too much content. You just scroll through a lot on, and when you see some engagement video, okay, you stuck with it for some moment, and then because of too much content, in a 1 minute you're like, okay, the next one, and you forget to comment. But of course, it depends on the quality of a content for sure. But it's harder and harder to make content really useful, really attractive, keep engagement. Yeah. Okay. I know that many small brands, because our audience is a small brands mostly, many brands they think that they have to find a celebrity or mega influencer to be successful on YouTube. What is the hidden risk in that strategy, in your opinion, and what are the biggest missed opportunity there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a great example of this is the Diary of a CEO, because the Diary of a CEO is really well known. And it's also a channel, I would say, that has a lot of regular listeners, people that will go back to it every week, but also one that is very much dependent on who the guest is as well. So you get a guest that everybody's interested in, or a subject that everybody's interested in, and suddenly viewership goes up. And when it's not, viewership goes down. And what you can see with Diary of a CEO as well is, yes, the products that he talks about are successful and people will go and try them. But with that, there's a lot of passive listeners who actually aren't going to convert. They're not going to listen to the products that he's pushing because they're really more there for the guest than for him. And that can be a risk with working with a bigger influencer. So say he gets 10 million views. If a lot of people are just there to listen to, like Boris Johnson was a very big one here in the UK. If a lot of people are just here to listen to about the chaos of Parliament during the time he was elected, then are they interested in Huel and meal replacements? Maybe not. But the dedicated listeners who keep coming back will actually say, yeah, he's got some good points. I'll come to that. So when you get with a big celebrity or a big name, you might have that challenge that there's not a ready captive audience there for them to convert, because people are interested in the content and they like it, but they're not someone who's deeply like, oh my god, this hanging on every word. I must try Huel, I must try Zoe, which are a couple of the products that he promotes. The advantage that you do get with something like that is brand awareness obviously goes through the roof compared to if you work with smaller influencers, because there's talk of it. People talk about what he promotes and why he promotes them, and so good or bad, more people are talking about that. And the other part that you can do as well is you can also name drop and social proof via the fact that this big name is using your product, and that works in two ways. Number one, to encourage others to put their name to it. So if you say Stephen Bartlett is promoting this, it's easier to then get somebody else to promote it.
Yeah.
And then the other side is that because he's such a big name, it makes it feel like you're a big brand to go out into the world with. But I would say for smaller teams, often, yes, it is trying to get brand awareness, but a lot of it when you're a smaller company is like, we want to convert, and we want to use YouTube as a channel to convert. And often it's people with smaller audiences that do it because, one, they feel like they're part of something and they're much closer, but also in terms of how they're able to get a bit more touch time with that creator changes as well. So if you've got 100 followers and they're all your friends on Instagram or YouTube or whatever it may be, you can chat to everyone all the time, and then it goes up to 1,000, 10,000, and suddenly it becomes hard to have one-to-one interactions with people. And you're probably also starting to have a broader appeal as well, right? Because you're reaching more people. Whereas if you've got 2,000-3,000 people that are really interested in like this particular game that's quite niche, and you only talk about these kinds of ways to win in this game, it's like, oh, this person's great, like we should listen to everything they say. They got this thing in the game. I'm trying to think of a good example in the game, but I think that's where you want to be as a smaller brand, like actually converting, because if your product is then good, those people who have bought it then tell their friends, and you start to amplify through that. And so if you can work with more creators that are smaller and have got more conversion opportunities, it's more of an operational challenge, but you actually might get more sales out of it. A nice thing that you can do if you've got the budget is work with maybe two or three bigger, and that changes per brand. So maybe bigger to you is 10,000 subscribers, maybe it's 100,000 subscribers. Views are more important, but I think we all understand that the follower count more than we do the view count. But someone who's got around those numbers, and then you get a couple of those so that you can social proof, say these people are doing it, get some more brand awareness, but actually find people with consistent viewership, engaged community, because they're the ones who will convert off the back of it.
Actually, one another good kind of strategy move I heard with from a CMO of Surfshark VPN, and he said like, we started using small influencers because none of big brands wanted to work with us because they want to be so famous at all. They just started kind of, and they started with small influence and step by step continuously, because they work with all these influencers. There are some gossips about, okay, Surfshark pay quite good, bigger brands start coming to them, and of course all these big names, they also increase open rate of their emails to other influencers and etc. And he said like, just start doing it and doing it consistently, like step by step, because of course when he said when they sign up a promotion with Mr. Beast, their open rate for their email like rocket with other influencers. Everyone decided to start working with them before they are not even considered Surfshark as a brand to promote. Yeah. But
Mr. Beast is a great example, because anybody that has ever worked with Mr. Beast, whether it be as an editor, script writer, or even just as part of the show in any way, they'll always have ex Mr. Beast. And immediately that goes, oh, you worked on the best channel in the world ever. Like you must have something good, or at least learn something good. And that's that same piece. Like you start with the, not like I say, not mega influencers, just people that can help you just keep going up that ladder. And eventually, if your product sells well and people are making conversions and people are making money from it, and you can show that, then you keep going up that ladder as well. But yeah, don't start with Mr. Beast on day one. And also his audience is largely kids as well, so it's not that valuable. Although more valuable than mine. Like if you have 400 million people watching, of course it's a valuable audience, but per person, per capita, maybe not so much.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that's a good point for another questions. That I know and I see, and we also experienced that previously. We made a video with some influencer from affiliate field, and he had like, I don't know, a few thousand followers. But then when I checked his videos, I don't know, some of them just hit 1k, 2k, or even less views. And my next questions: what are the most common red flags to fake engagement? Ooh. What is the simple process to brand can use to verify channel authority without huge time investment?
I would say 3 things to do it really quickly. First of all, look at the view count versus subscriber ratio. If somebody's got, this is the channel actually I was looking at earlier that asked for us to promote with them. They had 5,700 subscribers and their view count average was 40. That's a massive red flag. I'm like, where have you got all these subscribers from? Have you stolen the channel? Did you use bots, or all of those things? So immediately that's a no. I mean, we don't really see a value in somebody that's only got 30 or 40 views. I think that's different if you're a brand and you've got 30 or 40 people to listen to about your product or service or whatever. I think every view is valuable, but that's one I would look at as a red flag. I say, okay, something wrong there immediately. But let's say they did. Let's say they got to like 500 to 1,000, which would still be somebody we potentially engage with. Then I just look at what's their comments like. And if they've got a huge amount of likes but barely any comments, that again is a bad sign. Because I'm like, why have so many people said that they like this, but they haven't bothered to comment? Because they've engaged in some way, but they're not, drawn into to comment. And then the last one is just if everybody just writes 2 lines like great post or this was amazing or thanks so much. It's kind of like just clearly there's nothing here. There's no audience for it. And so the other one that you might get is you can pay for views. You can make it an advert, and lots of big companies will actually do this. So they get 200,000 views on a video that's public for everybody to see, and maybe it's like an hour-long keynote, and maybe they have like 2 comments. So yeah, if it's high views, no comments, I would assume that the views are bought, and if it's high engagement for those likes or just only like great post, I'd assume it's friends or engagement pod or something like that.
I have one questions out of the list,
Mm-hmm.
actually, but I really couldn't ask, not to ask. If I can get faster and cheaper reach on TikTok, because it's really much faster to get some views, why bother with YouTube?
Yeah, I think first of all that's a really good question to ask yourself anyway. What is the best platform and where will I convert most? Because TikTok Shop is awesome. You can literally put your product in front of somebody, they can click it and it can be there in a moment. And whilst YouTube is getting better integrations with Shopify and moving in that direction, it is still behind. The question that I think brands should think about is the long-term value that they get by working with a YouTuber. And so social experiment, someone taught to me, and I get lots of people to try, is think of your 5 favorite TikTokers, try and remember who their names are. And you likely can't. You remember what they do or what they talk about, but maybe not their names. And try that with YouTubers. You obviously have to be somebody that watches both and uses both platforms. And you'll know who they are, you'll know who their families are. And the reason is because you're spending so much more time with them. And so whilst a YouTube short view and a TikTok view are quite similar, really. You've just seen a short piece of content and maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. But a view on a channel where you're watching 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours perhaps, is worth so much more than one view on TikTok. It's kind of comparing apples to oranges. And the reason podcasts are so successful is because you sit and listen to that person for such a long time and you get to understand their viewpoints and what shapes them as a person. And YouTube is very, very similar with that. And so if you want to build long-term value, working with a YouTuber for a long period of time and getting them to talk about that, just invaluably just creates so much more trust with that audience, people that are listening, people that are watching, because they spend so much more time with them.
We use YouTube for ourselves with the same strategic thing. Like we decided to go all in YouTube, not all in, but focus on YouTube and create all this podcast. And of course, we made some short videos and send them to TikTok just to send to YouTube because, as you said, in YouTube it's more like strategic channel. And of course, these people who on a YouTube, they at least know what they watching.
And YouTube Shorts are great for discovery, and so you can talk a little bit about what the product does or something helpful, and then try and direct them to the main channel to then get them onto the longer form comment. But I'm not going to try and say YouTube Shorts so much better than TikTok. Like there's just advantages to both, but that long form view, that's the hill I'll die on. That it's much more valuable than a view on Instagram, TikTok. And when you speak to a lot of people in industry and you ask the question, what's a follower or subscriber worth the most as on a platform? 90% of the time people would say YouTube, and then some might say LinkedIn now because of the types of people that are on there. But apart from that, there's kind of no other answer.
And LinkedIn, it's a different channel.
Completely.
But it's quite interesting that they decided to move more on a video part of it as well, because I think they start promoting that LinkedIn not just for a text for post, but more for a video. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, LinkedIn, it's kind of a really strange channel for me, as I've heard once. If you feel something that you unsuccessful, if you feel some frustration, I don't know, watching Instagram or TikTok because there are a lot of successful people, just go to LinkedIn and try to scroll 15 minutes, and you will understand it is not so much in Instagram and in TikTok. Only on LinkedIn, people talk about success in every message.
Yeah, it's strange like that. I've noticed some people are starting to be a bit more honest and authentic with their shortcomings of where they are. But yeah, I don't think I think it's maturing, but it hasn't quite matured as a platform yet. So there's still very mixed stuff on there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But okay, let's move on. Uh, let's imagine the situation. I've identified a promising list of creators, and what's the next thing uh, I need to do to make my outreach message stand out? Because I know that your platform also allows to reach out to these influencers, and I think you know what is the best outreach message?
Yeah, so
How it looks?
we provide emails. You can't do it directly in the platform, but I still think it's the same piece. And this actually links to the main reason why we don't do it. The first thing you have to think about is getting in the inbox and not the spam. And spam signals are sending the same email lots of times, high volume of emails. And then also some things that you as an individual can't affect too much unless you're very, very small and there's only a few of you in the company. But if you send an email from Coca-Cola, it's far more likely to get into an inbox versus, a brand that only started a week ago and has never emailed anybody. But let's say all things being equal, you are sending personalized messages, you're writing one-to-one to those creators, influencers. That's going to get you into the inbox because it's not seen as Google or Microsoft. You're sending spam, and they're the most likely that you're going to be emailing as a email provider. So you've got that, and then the first thing you're then trying to do is get them to open it. So it should be something that's interesting. And in the audiences of interest of this podcast, I would say that you're probably trying to point out to the fact that this is a paid partnership. So somebody wants to get paid for the work that they do. You are offering to do that, whether it's through affiliate only deal or through actual sponsored content. So I'd say brand sponsorship opportunity, and use their name if you know it, or if it's a group of people, mention who they are, and that just shows that you're not doing a effectively like copy and paste from the YouTube channel or mail merge, where you're taking all the names of YouTube channels or Instagram handles and popping them in. So immediately somebody's then opened your email, and I then break it down into a 4-step formula. So why have you reached out to them? And it should be something that's like personalized and not just love your content, but what is it? Like you can just click into a video for 10 seconds, mention that bit that they said, and you thought, oh, that was like really funny, or whatever the right description of that piece of content is, and then say, this is the opportunity that you're reaching out with, some kind of social proof. And this is where what we talked about at the start, like, have you worked with Stephen Bartlett or a big creator? Like, they've promoted it, you should too. Or maybe you talk about the revenue that some people have earned through it. So X person was able to earn this amount, and then a very easy CTA, like call to action. Is this something that you're open to discussing? Yes, no. Would you like to jump on a 5-minute call? Are you open to me sharing more information? So it's really lightweight, and it's 4 steps that they can just go through and go, okay, cool, easy. Nice short email, gets to the point. Do I want to do it or not? And then a bit of a step from there. People might not reply first time, so if you can go on to their other handles and message them. Some people prefer message via DM. I would say the majority of people still function on email, but you try and reach them in more places, you're more likely to get more responses. And summary, don't go into spam, which obviously everybody wants to do, but you can take some steps to help you get there. Really clear and compelling subject line, short email that's easy for them to get back to you, and not like high effort. Like, let's have a 2-hour call, or can you send me all of these different things? Like, if you're interested, no, just like make it nice and easy.
Totally agree that to make this message stand out, you need to know how to create a message. And the more I noticed that actually, you mentioned like scroll the content, check this and say, okay, this is a good piece of content, etc. But don't you think that all these messages, which starts from I just seen your content and it's great, blah blah blah, kind of generic, or not generic, but takes time to a person just to read without like spend time to get to the point why you're messaging. And more importantly, I've just like made the research, but noticed that a lot of outreach emails, they started from what they want, but rather than what you get of this promotion.
This is the part where I say subscribe, and you either do it or make me wait in silence. You.
Yes, I think they are two different things there. So the latter part, picking up on that, all of the language should say you, your, as opposed to I and me. The only time I think you do that is when you do the social proofing part, where you say we've worked with X and would like to work with you because you can do X, Y, Z too. And I think that's so important. I listened to a advert yesterday on a podcast where it said we're doing this and we're great and we're changing the world, and I was like, oh my god, this is so boring. Like, what do I get out of this? And I should potentially be interested in what you're telling me, but I'm not, because it's all about you, not me. And I think that's a really great point that I didn't come to there before, is all the language should be about them and what they get out of it, because they've never met you, they have no idea who you are. It's a cold email. Maybe they know your brand or product, but really it's what's in it for them is going to be what they're interested in. And that's right. If they're going to do a sponsorship or a partnership, there should be something in it for them. And then what I would come back to in terms of the generic piece is, if you're doing mass outreach, it's much harder to do. But if you say, hey, I'm reaching out because, and then obviously there's an I, but we would like to sponsor your content. And then in that, like, not just saying because you love it, but for example, when I was working with a customer recently and saying, just click onto any video, we're going to watch 2 minutes and we're going to get some personalized piece out of that. And what they were actually able to talk about was the creator had given a very vulnerable view of how they were feeling based on some circumstances that clearly happened earlier in the video or over previous videos. And they were able to say, we really love how you were vulnerable and able to share that deep connected moment with your audience where you talked about this, and think because of that, you'd actually be the right type of person for us to partner with, because we care about X, Y, or Z. And so then you've got that. So you're going to pay them to do something. It's very specific to them because you've talked about a moment in their content, which only took, I think it took us about 45 seconds in the end. And then you go through the social proof and what they might get out of it, and a low CTA. But yeah, I think that's very important, that it's not just generic, because everybody says, I love your content. And it's like, once you've got the fourth one, you're like, everybody seems to love my content, but no one says what it is or what they loved about it. So maybe it could be specific.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you think are the biggest mistake small and medium businesses make when they try to go head with the big brands?
What I think generally is a challenge in organizations starting it for the first time is there'll be a lack of expertise across the business. And maybe you've got one person in, and maybe that's you listening, that is the expert. And you probably know that the real challenge is not so much what the other bigger brands are doing, but other people in the business trying to compete with those brands or expecting the same return. And so what that then means is you start looking to the wrong pointers as to who you should partner with. So I did say earlier on about subscriber counts because they're easy to understand. And what you'll have is often a senior leader, and he might go and say, and the reason I say he, by the way, is often I see this pattern in males where they're not really willing to listen, and sometimes like they just come across quite brash and come into that conversation and go, oh, we should be working with this person. They've got 100,000 followers, and you're like, yeah, but they only get 4,000 or 5,000 views, and they're charging a lot more, and there's no reason that I can see that we should be partnering with them. But someone feels like that's going to be a big win, big social proof for the company, and so the person who then actually has the expertise is then going on a path that they don't feel is the right one. So they spend a huge amount of budget on this 100,000 follower person that creates nothing. I think that's one part. And then the other piece in it as well is it very much depends on the product brand, whether you're B2B or whatever it might be. But with YouTube, you're needing to think about the long-term metrics as well. So it's actually very hard to understand whether you've had success within the first 3 months, because what you would be trying to do, say NordVPN, for example, they've done a huge amount on YouTube and are really successful now. But let's say like there's a sports channel and they're on it for maybe 3-6 months, and they say, you can use it for this, you can watch your sport abroad, you can do X, Y, or Z, maybe you need it for your work. It might actually be longer than that before even half of the audience needs to use NordVPN, just because of travel, right? You start in January, if you go till September, maybe you've only been away once in that time, if at all. And so it would take a bit of time for it to be clicked onto. And also you need time for the audience to get used to that product and think about it more and go, oh, actually, yeah, I do need NordVPN. I am going to be abroad and I'd like to watch the World Cup while I am. So it's things like that where it's not so much trying to compete with the big brands, but saying, well, this big brand, they're everywhere, they're doing all of this. And it's like, okay, well, we've got a much smaller budget. So let's focus on what we're trying to achieve and give ourselves time to achieve it with the right people, rather than going, let's get 100,000 subscriber people. Let's look at all the metrics within what we're doing within 1-2 months. And if it doesn't work, let's bin it off. Because I think people expect huge results first of all, and that can happen. But actually, like with most things, slow, steady effort, consistent over time is usually the thing that will work.
Yeah. Most of our churned customers actually also churned not because of a platform reason, but because of a project ended or we don't get any results. But it's only up to them get these results or not really. How you focus on your program or not really. But you mentioned metrics, and actually it's a good point. I would like to know more. Are there any key metrics that can actually predict ability to drive sales from an influencer?
Yeah, view count, watch time, engagement rate are the best three. Watch time is private to the YouTube channel itself, so you would have to get that data afterwards. But if you have a consistent view count, that is higher view count as well. So that generally the higher the better. Not because of anything else other than you just give yourselves more opportunities to convert. And if that view count is consistent, then people are there for that person, that creator. And what you actually see on YouTube that tends to work really well is relatively niche agnostic products. So AG1, for example, anybody can do that. NordVPN, anybody can do that. And they are two of the most successful through YouTube sponsorships. And they are high value or they're repeat purchase. And in fact, in these two cases, it's both. But you might see say beds, for example, like a 3K mattress or something like that in the US. I've seen some of those promoted recently. YouTube works really well for those, and if you've got people that are getting really good view counts, really good comments, and they stick with that, yes, they might cost more than somebody on TikTok or Instagram, but with those three things, it points to the fact that they're really highly likely to be able to convert. And it's funny, I just thought this was some intuition that I had, and maybe it was wrong or too simplistic. But I speak to lots of other great companies, people in the industry, like competitors, and they all say the same thing. It's just if you've got good view count, good audience, and they're based in the place where you want to promote product or service, because that's important as well, and great. And you see that with watch time. So if people click on and their view stays till the end, that's great. And you do also need to see where the audience is based, depending on what your product or service is. So if you've got a product that you only deliver in the US, but 80% of the audience is based outside of it, difficult to convert. But if that's the opposite way around, then yeah, nice and easy.
Yeah, but uh, we we've all seen a bad product reviews or sponsored videos that feels like inauthentic. How brand can work with influencer to create a content that feels really genuine and trusted by audience, or it's only up to influencer?
There's a few factors that can play into this. First of all, like with anything, people get better over time. And so if somebody has done sponsored content before, it's likely that they'll improve over time by getting feedback from their audience, having the chance to record it, multiple times in some cases. They'll just naturally get better at it and understanding what their audience wants to hear and what they, you know, respond well to. And that might be through sales or it might be through comments as well. You can also just watch their previous content as well and see how they deliver it, and try, if in that example, to find something that as similar as possible. And that doesn't have to be in the sense of we talked about like one VPN versus another to try and do it, but is it something that's like techie? Is it something that they wouldn't actually use in this type of content? So for example, automotives is massive on YouTube, right? Can they promote a product that isn't related to cars? And so AG1 does really well with that, because they say, I travel a lot because I go to these car shows, I go to this, that means I don't get my greens, and therefore I'm going to now use AG1 to get that. And they integrate it really well. So you're like, okay, well, they've managed to integrate that really well. What's another product or service that they can take around with them? Is that ours? And great, awesome. There's a really good partnership there. And then the other part is that it is a bit of a judgment sense, and this is where you'll get better at it over time, is trying to figure out, like, would this person actually use the product? Like, can they convince you that they would actually be an advocate for it and they would actually use it? And so I always use AG1 as an example because they're so well known for their success. But a lot of people would use it because they're busy, they've got kids, they travel a lot, and actually it's a really good way for them to be able to get greens in it, and it just integrates really nicely. Or people travel a lot, so NordVPN or whatever it might be is really easy for them to use. But if that person never travels, or they actually don't care about greens and what they eat, and they can't convince you that they do, like, you'll just get better going, no, I don't think that's right. You'll just I'd love to tell you there's a better thing than vibes, but you'll essentially get to understand that, like, okay, I've seen content from theirs before, and I think they promote stuff well. Could they talk about getting excited about this? And let them, in some cases, if you can do, depending on the value of the product, let them try it and see if they like it, and show you, like, this is how they promote it. Because you can start a negotiation and then you don't have to actually go all the way to the end with it. And you should be open with the people. You shouldn't like try and trick them into getting all the way to the end of the process and saying, oh no, we're not going to sponsor you. But just giving them an opportunity and to learn more about the product, so they feel comfortable with it, they feel like they've gone through a good process, and you feel comfortable with them promoting it. Because if it's inauthentic, it probably does more damage to the creator than the brand, I would say. I think people don't hold it against the brand, which maybe is nice for the listeners. It's more the creator that will lose a lot of credibility with their audience. But you'll just have wasted the time, like, working with them, and also the money if you've sponsored them. Because I appreciate some people might be affiliate only, but yeah, it's probably more reputational risk to them.
Yeah. To sum up everything, like, the three essential components of making successful influencer marketing campaign, it's first of all look at engagement rate, comments, or like, of course, first of all. Without it, it's pointless. And of course, look at engagement rate, like subscribers versus engagement. The second one, what kind of content they produce. For example, if they are not travel enough, or they are not travel bloggers, but you would like to promote through them, I don't know, some kind of travel accessory, it's not worth to use this kind of influencer, because it's like misconception of their lifestyle. And what would be the third one?
So understand what it is that you are trying to achieve, and making sure all of your decisions go towards that. And so it might be that you want brand awareness and you want to get it in the hands of as many people as possible, but you're not really looking for them to push hard and try and get conversions and sales right now. You just want people to be aware that that's there and this person has talked about it, and keep going with them, so that when somebody is ready to buy, they'll buy it. And if you think of, like, in B2B marketing, they say 95% of the time somebody who might buy it isn't in the market for it. It might already have a product. It might be that they're not quite ready to, budgets or whatever it may be. And there's an extent of that comes across to B2C. Like, not everybody's ready to buy all of the time. And so are you just trying to make people aware that when they are ready to buy, this is the product or service for them? Or is it that you need people to convert today, and you want to find channels that are going to do that for you? And then the type of content that's produced and the type of creators that you would choose as well would change based on that.
It's all from my side. If you would like to expand any sites that I not mentioned, feel free to say.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest challenges that people have is around how to price an influencer, or should they do affiliate only. I do think affiliate only can work. If you're aware of the newsletter platform Beehive, for example, they have a really generous program where they give people 50% commission, and I think it's for a year. Don't quote me on that, but that means that you as a brand have really low risk to engaging with them as a person to sponsor and having the content. But there's huge upside for that channel or creator, and probably actually they would earn less if they didn't have such an aggressive affiliate deal. But if you're offering like 10 to 15%, unless it's like a dream product, and 10% is going to add up to a lot, and you're giving them a discount code so that people are incentivized to buy it through them, like, it's going to be really hard to attract people. So if you want to go affiliate only, you need to make that really aggressive, I would say, in terms of what the commission is and how much they can earn back from it. So it's exciting. And then in terms of pricing, people often go, well, what should I pay? And I think more so you need to go back to yourself and say, okay, what do I value this partnership as? So what is a view to us? Like, if we get 10,000 views, what is that worth it to us? And most like advertising mechanisms are done by like CPM, so cost per mil. How many people see this ad, and how much do we pay for that? So you might have an understanding of what a view is worth. It just might take you a little bit of time to work out what it is on YouTube. And then clicks, conversions, sales that you can get through your through any tracking system that you decide to use. And obviously some people won't actually use that tracking, but you kind of have to go, okay, well, what's the value of just generally working with an influencer for our brand power and knowing? And so if you go, well, 10,000 views is worth $500 to us, because it's that's what we see as being worth, however you decide to do that. Every conversion gets us X amount, so we're going to do that. A click, we know somebody's come to the site, so we're going to value that, and you add it all up. And then the only real other accelerators that you might put on it is, one, is it integrated or is it the whole thing? So sometimes it's a product walkthrough, like, here's how I use this, like very common in tech, like here's 15 minutes on how to set up this using HubSpot, worth much more than a 2-minute video or a 2-minute integration. Say, hey, I love HubSpot, it helps you to do this. And so you just think about that, and then that will give you a price that you're comfortable paying, and that's something that you can speak to them about doing. And then you think about like longer term partnerships and how you might work with them, and they may give you a price that's much higher, they may give you a price that's much lower, but you just understand like intrinsically then, well, we know that if you can get 10,000 views, that's worth $1,000 to us. And so that's, where we can go to. And it might change a little bit where you say it's like, we'll pay 500 to do the video, but you also get a commission on sales. But if it's brand awareness, that's not going to be really worth anything to the people because they're not really looking to like convert. So actually maybe we do pay that $1,000 and go with it like that. But always be comfortable in what you're spending. And that's the best way to start because it is like the Wild West in terms of pricing. And different reasons why, like sometimes somebody just got lucky, sometimes they don't want to be sponsored and they're just like, well, I might as well try and make lots of money. And another time somebody gave them loads of money that, they just had a big budget and they got it wrong. So there are reasons for like up, and the inverse of those can happen for people that are down. They might really need a sponsorship. They might have been paid really poorly before. And so, I think lots of things outside of your control are there. But if you go, this is our budget, this is what we're happy to pay people, this is what we see as a good return on investment, then you're off to the races.
Yeah. Well, I think actually this is there is a big gap in tracking in all these influencer campaigns because, as you said, a lot of them, they are more brand awareness. They are not so affiliate kind of promotions. Even if you put a link below in a comment, a lot of people, they just see and remember the product, then they will go direct or I know via Google and etc. And the influencer won't get anything because they just not click on a link. And that's the biggest, I think, issue with all these influencer campaigns, and that brand must understand why a lot of influencers taking money before on like not on affiliate based, on conversion based, but a fix plus something else, because fix, it's kind of their safety net. It's like a cost of production and cost of being bothered with the promotion of this brand and etc etc. But I think a lot of companies, they don't understand it. Like they think, of course, because I know a lot of brands who started with affiliate marketing, they think like affiliate marketing is a kind of free sales. I will pay after I get my money from a customer, and then okay, I will pay you something. But it is not. And in influencer field, in a YouTube field, it's more than before. It's kind of, as you said, right, it's investment. If you good with this amount of money to invest in this channel, in this particular influencer, okay, do it. If you are not, stop even thinking about it.
Absolutely. And as I was saying earlier, when you go to somebody and say like, we'll give you 10% for everything you sell and no fee to do it, the only real benefit is if they can sell a mass amount of it, which they're probably not going to be that interested in, because often they don't feel respected as a creator. All the other benefit might be that if they've never done one before and they can show people that they can convert, then they might be happy to do that as well. To help with the tracking, if you give discounts that people can only get by showing they've got a discount from an influencer, so don't have it on your site, don't have it findable on coupon sites, but you listen to it in a lot of podcasts. A great example, go to www.insertbrand/mypodcast, and then you get a lot of people that come through that, and they all get the same deal no matter what podcast they come from, but it's only available if they actually do that, because then you get the discounted 10%, 2 months free or whatever, versus just going onto the site and paying for it anyway. So that can really help with the tracking of conversions. And that's why also I get people to try and think about, what is a view worth to you, click conversion, and then also understanding that some people will just come back to that later know who you are because it's brand awareness or whatever it may be, and know that there's some value in that. And that's why, again, when people are trying to do it like big brands or get into it for the first time and they're looking at how's a YouTube campaign gone after 2 months, like, oh, let's start thinking after 6 months and see like what else has changed. Like, are we getting more site visitors in general? Are we just generally seeing a boost in sales? Because that can point back to the not just what you've been doing in influence marketing, but other marketing mechanisms you've been doing over the past 6 months and what impacts that having. Because this is how I think about influencer marketing happens. Like 90% of people say they don't get influenced by whoever, which true or not true, let's not argue that point. What does happen, and some people are willing to admit, that someone that they really like, YouTuber, influencer, someone, a key online thinker, they say it, and then you've got this group that are locked in. So I've listened to it, and I hear about 3 tech products that I'm like keen to try. You come to me and say, this is a problem I'm trying to solve because we're friends and we're having a beer or a cup of tea, whatever it might be, maybe a cup of tea, right? I then say, oh, I've heard about this tool. Now, you've never watched that video that I did. You've never seen it. But there's a group of people who are locked into it and are trying to find out what are the latest products, what are the latest trends, what are the latest things that I can try. And they get excited about it and they talk about it with other people. And the more times you make that impression, the more times that somebody hears about your brand, the more opportunities you've got for that to happen. And that's where that type of audience becomes important. And if they're super engaged, that's more likely that they're then going to amplify your messages as well. So yeah, I could have got into lots of other things about that as well. But yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah. And actually, I think video became more and more important because, of course, right now you can, and a lot of people they search on using AIs to collect all this information, reviews, and etc. Like compare product X versus Y and which one is better. And a lot of people they trust all these AIs, but at the same time, I know that a lot of people they start watching YouTube for getting this proof. Is it really worth to try? Because some of products they are not so cheap; they kind of expensive. Yeah, and of course you trust more real people talking about this product rather than same kind of tool says you like this one product better than this one.
Yeah. And where's AI getting its information from, right? Like YouTube, Reddit, probably the 2 most popular ones for it to source from in terms of public opinion. So
Yeah. And Reddit for me it's kind of black box. Anyway, but YouTube definitely is one of the best channel for strategic
100%.
for strategic moves, for any strategic decisions and etc. Not like a fast win, but for a strategic move. If you consider your marketing strategy in a long run for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ahead, you start thinking about YouTube channel, as a awareness channel, as a consideration channel, as a channel itself. Somehow to be presented on this channel. Otherwise, I know you will lose.
Yeah, 100%.